because we're not supposed to greet one
don't
another.
hear them so well.
So we have a very, very special program lined up with a very, very special guest. The Churban of the Beis HaMikdash, the destruction of the temple, both our temples destroyed on Tisha B'Av, hence the Jewish National Day of Mourning today. And it's not surprising that the She'edes HaPleita, the survivors of the Holocaust, referred to the Holocaust simply as the Churban. The term the Shoah came later, but the traditional Yiddish-speaking Yidden from Europe, they called it the Churban, the destruction, which is what we commemorate on Tisha B'Av. So it's actually very appropriate that we go from one Churban to another Churban, nearly 2,000 years between them. But if the temple would not have been destroyed, then we would never have had a Holocaust, because we would never be in such a situation. So tonight, we are very privileged, very blessed, and very honored to have a legend in our time joining us. Ella Blumenthal is not just a survivor. There are many survivors. All of them are holy. But Ella is a legend because Ella didn't only survive, but she thrived. And she's a legend in Cape Town and way beyond Cape Town. She's speaking to us tonight from Cape Town, where she resides. She is, please God, in a little, very short time, going to be celebrating her 99th birthday, zu lange Jahr. Ella, when I wish you bis 120, I mean it. Ich mein das mit an Emes. And K9 Hora is all I could say. I want to thank Peter and Evelyn Kaplan, Ella's daughter and son-in-law, for helping facilitate the interview and the conversation and the talk by Ella this evening. And we're going to be joined also by an up-and-coming young filmmaker, Jordy Sank, who I met a couple of years ago at Bnei Akiva camp when I visited there, and he was the Rosh Machaneh. And today he is a filmmaker, producing and directing original films. He's got, his name is Sank, and his company is called Sanctuary. I thought that was quite good. And we wish him every success. And he has been filming Ella Blumenthal. And one day, in the hopefully not too distant future, we're going to see a full-length documentary about the life of our Holocaust heroine, Ella Blumenthal, produced by Jordy Sank. And Jordy's going to share with us a little bit about how it was spending all that time, the experience that he had with Ella. The Ella experience must be quite unique, because she's quite a unique lady, as you'll all hear just now. I've met Ella many times over the years, my visits to Cape Town, and not so long ago, some months back, before lockdown, before Corona, BC, when was that? I was a guest speaker at the Cape Town Holocaust Center, and Ella was there, and we had a very, very vibrant chat afterwards, I recall very vividly. So, Jordy, perhaps before we see the trailer of your upcoming documentary, which is called I Am Here, She's Here, I Am Here, perhaps we'll ask Jordy to just share with us a little bit about his experience doing this film with Ella, and then he'll give us a sneak preview, a little trailer of the movie that's coming up. Jordy, are you there?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Rabbi Goldman and Rabbi Stern. So in our documentary, we focus on Ella transcending the darkest moment in history and in her life. And we see how she lives her life to the fullest and how she overcomes obstacles in her life. And the whole point of the film, one of the things when I met Ella, was that she wasn't just just a Holocaust survivor. She was the woman in the room with the most zest and the most full of life person. And I think all of us today with our own obstacles can really learn from Ella and her character, especially her optimism, her faith, and her hopeful nature, which I think are extremely relevant on Tisha B'Av, where we all yearn, hope, and pray for the rebuilding of the temple. The second temple was destroyed because of baseless hatred. And Rav Kook says that one of the ways that we remedy this in order to build the new temple is with baseless love. And Ella really, really embodies this concept of baseless love. All you need to do is walk into a room with her and meet her, and she'll have you crying and laughing in one sitting. And I think just a good example of this baseless love is a few weeks back, there was a comment that went viral and was all over the news, where Ella, basically she found that a woman had said that Hitler was innocent, and it was all over the news. And Ella had a few ways that she could have responded to this, but with that baseless love that only Ella can really give over, she said, and I'm going to read exactly what she said just because it's so incredible. She said, "I would love to meet with you. Maybe I will tell you my story and you will tell me yours. I know we will learn far more that unites us than divides us. And maybe together we will find a way to shine light into our fractured world." So I just think that tonight on Tisha B'Av, to hear Ella and her stories, and also just to hear from this extraordinary person is extremely relevant to all of us. And please God, in hearing her and in learning from her, we can merit the building of the next temple. So here I'm going to show you a clip from the film, which will hopefully be complete in the next few months.
When my children asked me, what was the scar in my arm? I wouldn't talk about my suffering and fight for survival. I said, it was an accident. In spite of you bottling it up internally, I remember vividly you would just scream in the middle of the night. And then again, I was scared. I was worried. The Nazis are taking my children from me. It's not a story, it's true. I never lost hope, never. Even in the darkest times of my life. If ever told you that I am old, look at me.
Thank you, Jordy. That's just a small taste, and we'll see a few more clips before the night is over. But Jordy, we wish you hatzlacha in the film, and we certainly look forward to seeing the finished product. Bimheira v'yameinu. Good luck. God bless, and thank you so much. And Jordy will share with us a few more clips as we go along tonight, as certain parts become more relevant in the conversation. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure, privilege, and very deep personal honor to introduce Ella Blumenthal, because Ella's story is not only one of tragedy, but one of triumph. Not only one of pain, but also pride. Not only one of horror, but one of honor. She's not only a survivor, she's a thriver. She didn't just survive, she thrived. She's a role model. She's a beacon of light, of hope, and faith. And for me, I feel a very special bond with Ella because we are what they call in Yiddish landslide. You know, she was born in Warsaw, and my father, Olav Hashalom, was born in a town called Shedlitz, which he always told me was 2 train stops from Warsaw. And he studied in a yeshiva in Warsaw for a while. And Ella, as she'll tell us, spent some very, very important time of her life, not only in Warsaw, but in the Warsaw Ghetto. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest tonight, a very, very special guest of honor, Holocaust heroine, Ella Blumenthal. Ella, thank you for joining us. Adressen Dank. A schönen Dank. So we are landslide. Wir sind beide Polische. So, Ella, I saw the other night that you had a conversation with the rabbi of Warsaw, Poland today, Rabbi Stambler, who's today in Warsaw, in Warsaw. And you mentioned that you were a neighbor of the famous, one of the leading rabbis of Warsaw, Rabbi Menachem Zemba.
Zemba, yeah.
Did you know him?
Of course, of course. I grew up almost under his eyes. We were neighbors, true neighbors, wall by wall. Our business was next to their business. And I used to walk up always next to their door, come and knock to come and be welcome at the home of Rabbi Menachem Zemba.
Well, this Rabbi Menachem Zemba, I want our audience to know a little bit about the story there, because he was one of the greatest rabbis in Warsaw, and he was incarcerated in the Warsaw Ghetto, where Ella was. And the story, legend has it that the Catholic Church offered the 3 leading rabbis of Warsaw to be rescued from the ghetto and to get them out to safety. And the 3 rabbis conferred, and they had this halachic debate, because on the one hand, it's a mitzvah to save a life, pikuach nefesh. On the other hand, could they leave their brethren behind? What would the Jewish community say? Oh, the rabbis saved their skins and left us here to fry. They could be disillusioned. They could lose their faith in God and Torah and rabbis. And all the 3 rabbis decided that they cannot take up the church's offer as life-saving as it promised to be, and they decided to stay with their people in the Warsaw Ghetto, and they perished with their people in the Warsaw Ghetto. But Rabbi Menachem Zemba's teachings, many of his writings did survive, and in one of my lectures I quote one of his famous teachings. Okay, so there's this short little clip we have of Ella in the Warsaw Ghetto, and then we'll show that, and then Ella will tell us about life in Warsaw and the Warsaw Ghetto. Let's see if you can spot which girl is Ella in this little clip. Yeah. I spotted her. Okay, it sure looks like you, Ella. Huh? You recognize yourself, huh? A couple of years ago. Okay.
I can't.
You recognize
Can't hear
yourself.
it doesn't
What is he
matter.
asking?
You
Okay,
What is
Rabbi
he
Stern,
asking?
you wanna ask
recognize
us?
yourself.
Do I? Of course I do. Sure. I know it's me. You wouldn't think so, but I was a girl of 18, 19 that time. And now you see me for a woman of over 90, you know.
Rabbi Stern wants to ask you a question, Ella.
Ella, thank you very, very much for joining us this evening and sharing with us your personal story. We're focusing now, we want to focus on the Warsaw Ghetto. And we were thinking to ourselves, Tisha B'Av is about the fire in the temple going up in fire. And you spent time in the Warsaw Ghetto, and do you remember, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about life in the ghetto, and do you remember the fire, the flames of the Warsaw Ghetto after the uprising, which I think was Pesach time, is that right? The uprising in Warsaw?
Correct.
And
100%.
maybe you can describe to us life in the ghetto and the fires. Do you remember the fires in the Warsaw Ghetto?
Shall I tell you, it was Pesach night when my father shared a piece of matzah with everybody. There was just a few of us left underground in a bunker on Mila, the building of Mila 19. We were hiding there. And it was Pesach. And the next morning, we heard when the Nazis marched into the ghetto with their song Looking. But this time, when they marched in, this very day of Pesach, they were met by fire bombs, but there was shooting coming down from windows and rooftops. And the Germans were taken by surprise, and they withdrew, leaving behind the dead and injured. Believe it, but German blood was flowing in the streets of the Warsaw Ghetto. But the next morning, they came back with reinforcements. And the fighting went on and on. But unfortunately, our young people, we couldn't stand up to the mighty, well-equipped German army, and the uprising was crushed. The Germans decided then to do something terrible. They wanted to get out all of us and finish us off, the end of us. But how? They couldn't get us out because the rest of us, just a small amount of the Jews remained in underground, in hiding. So the only way to get us out was to smoke us out. And they set the ghetto on fire, building by building. We had to get out because our hiding place, the bunker, was also full of flames getting in, so we climbed out. And there were other people from other bunkers coming out, so we were all in the courtyard, and the clothing was burning on us. The hair was singed, and there were some two young men with their clothes which were perfect, like clean decent, not like us that we were in cramped clothing. And they begged us and they asked us to get out of the inferno. You won't be killed. You will be sent to work at the German workshops. Come, get out of the fire. So instead of being burned alive, people followed them. And as soon as they got out behind the door, the gate, they were immediately surrounded and sent away. But our small group that kept together from the ghetto, and in all the bunkers we were together, we decided otherwise. And even in this dark hour, when we were trapped with nowhere to turn, we still didn't want to follow them. And we decided we must carry on. So there was one man, Moshe Baker, among us, who had a place in this backyard of Mila 19. He showed us he used to keep the flour before the war. And we lowered ourselves into this place, and we were standing so tightly together that we couldn't move our limbs. And every night, one by one, we used to climb out to get some fresh air and to straighten our limbs. But one morning, we heard knocking into our trapdoor. Raus, raus, verfluchte Jude. Get out, you cursed Jews. If you don't come out, we will send guests down. We knew that we were betrayed. We had no option. And one by one, we climbed out. As we were out, we were blinded by daylight, which we hadn't seen for weeks and months, living underground. And then we were ordered to stand with our hands up, facing the courtyard wall. And we waited to be shot. And I prayed to God that I should be shot first before my father, who was standing next to me. And on the other side of my father was my niece. But they were only searched us for weapons. And then they asked us to put down all our gold and silver bijouterie into a bag. And then they were chased out into the street. The ghetto was still burning. Some of the buildings were smoldering. Our ghetto was in ruins. They chased us to Umschlagplatz. If you don't know what Umschlagplatz was, please let me tell you, it was a railway siding where the cattle trucks were packed to capacity with human cargo and returned empty, ready for another load. We had to stay overnight because the train wasn't there yet. And we were sitting into an empty blockhouse. And the Latvian guards were coming in at night, and they were pulling out young girls for their pleasure. My father covered myself and my niece. We were sitting on each other of my father. He covered us with his capote. And then we were chased, the following day chased down to the cattle trucks. And there was an old man walking down the stairs in front of us. I think he was a rabbi. And when my father gave him a piece of sugar, loaf sugar, which he had in his pocket. And when we came down, the old man was motioned out and shot just next to us. He was too old to make even the last journey. And we were marched snel, and those who couldn't run fast enough were hit. They pushed us into the cattle trucks, and we were standing so tightly pressed together that they had difficulties in shutting the heavy doors before bolting it. Shall I tell you also how we traveled?
Ella, where did that cattle truck, where did that cattle truck take you to?
Where did it go?
Which concentration camp?
Where did it go?
Where?
Maidanek.
Oh, we traveled, and people were fainting because there was no water, there was no air coming through. Some people were dying even in upright position. As we were traveling, we thought that we were going to Treblinka, as most of the trains were leading to. But I don't know why. Were we better than our brothers and sisters? But we landed up in Maidanek. And there was immediately a selection. All the women were first put on one side and the men on the other side. We were segregated. And as a matter of fact, Rabbi, among us was standing the daughter-in-law of Rabbi, my neighbor. You were just talking of him.
Zemba.
Menachem Zemba. Yeah. His daughter-in-law with the children were standing there. And of course, all those women, young women with children, with babies and children, and older women were sent away to the gas chambers. And then it was the same thing happened to the men. The younger men was on one side, and the older men, and my father was with them, among them. And when he had tried to look at me and my niece Roma, he was hit over the head. And this is when I saw my father the last time. I've never seen my father again. And we went through a selection, and I was afraid that I wouldn't pass, because before that a dog got hold of me and he bit my back, and I thought I wouldn't pass the selection. But my niece said, if you don't pass, I will go with you. But it was my turn to go through the selection. I lifted up my head high and my shoulders, and I went to the right, because it was with one hand, with a knock, with a stick. The German was showing links to death, rechts to life, right to life, and we were sending to life. And then we were given lice-infested clothes after the showers, and we were chased into an empty blockhouse. when I say empty, there wasn't even a piece of straw. We slept on the floor, on the stone floor. Now, I will tell you that the work was terrible in different places. Before I speak about the work, let me tell you that we stood to roll calls, whether it was raining or sunshine. The food was actually terrible. The black gooey bread was like just impossible to eat, and the watery sort of soup with the rotten leaves flowing into it was impossible, also to difficult to swallow. Some of our girls couldn't take the conditions, and they got sick with typhus, and they got some swollen up, and they were sent to the gas chambers.
What about you? Didn't you have an experience with the gas chambers yourself?
Yes, that was a little later. But let me just tell you that one of my, I will talk about the gas chamber. One of the works that I was consigned to was among a few of our girls that were pushing a wooden cart filled with human waste. And two of our girls were in front instead of horses, and the rest of us pushing from the back and the side. And when we couldn't get the wheels out from the mud after the rains, we were hit so hard that we eventually could pull it out, and we got into the open field and we opened the back, and we were all covered with feces. Now, while there was something happened unusual, that we, in a different occasion, of course, we were sent over from the women's camp in Maidanek to the men's camp, which has never happened, most unusual. And they placed us in an empty blockhouse, and when men heard that there's some women in their camp, some of the Jewish men came in running in and asked us, have you perhaps seen my wife, Sorele? She was wearing a floral dress. Somebody else asked, maybe you came across my little girl, Rivka. She had big blue eyes. Of course, we couldn't answer, we couldn't tell them. In any case, they were chased out from our blockhouse. And we sat there until middle of the night, when we were chased out. And it was quiet. The whole Maidanek camp was peaceful. You couldn't even hear a fly. And we were marching and chased. On both sides of us were Nazis, Germans, with dogs on leashes, and they were barking. Can you imagine the quietness in the middle of the night? And we were going, marching, knowing that there was something happening. And we were pushed into a bathhouse, but it wasn't a bathhouse. It was a gas chamber. And when the heavy doors shut behind us, we looked up and we knew that the poisoning gas would come down any minute, any second. And we knew that our lives are almost finished. So we scraped the walls. We called for help. We called, Shema Israel, help us, save us. And I was holding my niece's hand and whispering, don't be afraid. I don't think it will hurt. It won't even take long. We will soon join our loved ones. And as I finished, the heavy doors opened and an assessment marched in. Ruhe, quiet. You are not going to be guests. That's what he announced. We couldn't believe it. We thought it's another trip of the Germans. So we asked him, please, to allow us to open a tiny window which was right up near the ceiling. And a few of the girls, one on top of the other on the shoulder, we climbed out and opened a tiny window. And we sat through the night there. And at dawn, we were chased out again. And what we saw was a contingent of women getting off the cattle trucks. They were passing us and they were led through to this gas chamber that we have just left. On the railway line when we were standing, there were some Jewish prisoners and they told us that we were lucky that we evaded death because the Germans received an order to gas 500 Jewish women and not 700. We were 700, our transport. So it was because the Germans were so tactical, so correct in everything, that we evaded the angel of death. But I think, and I know, that it wasn't the Germans, it was Rabboni Shalom, Hashem that was above us.
Not many,
And we were sent.
not many people can say they came out of a gas chamber alive.
Yeah.
You're one of the only people in the world, Ellen.
I don't know how many are still alive of us, 700. They were looking at the Maidanek, at the museum in Maidanek. They were looking of somebody that they know, only of myself, my niece, and somebody in Israel, out of the 700 of us.
But now you also spent time in Auschwitz. Did you go from Maidanek to Auschwitz?
Yes. And then in Auschwitz, we were not going through a selection because we came from another camp.
So you didn't see Dr. Mengele, Yamach Shema?
Oh, he was standing as we arrived. There was an orchestra playing made up of Jewish prisoners, and in front of them were all the commandants of the camp, and in the middle was, what did you say, Rabbi?
Mengele.
Yamach Shema.
Yeah.
He was standing there in the middle. And then, of course, our hair was shaven off. Our hands were tattooed. My number was 48,632. And below the number was a triangle, like a half a Magen David. This was the sign of a Jew. They did away eventually with it. They only gave numbers. And then we were sent to a blockhouse. Oh, the showers, and we got some terrible clothing. And in the blockhouse we slept 10 to a stone ramp, and we only had one blanket, so we had 5 on one side, 5 on the other, and we kept our legs between each one of the girls. And every morning, 4 o'clock, they chased us out, upstairs, schnell, schnell, there was no time. And we were standing there waiting to be counted, whether it was raining or whether it was snow or sunshine burning. We had to stay until the female SS woman arrived to take the count. And the block Älteste has announced so many sick, so many dead, and so many ready for work. And we used to march out afterwards to work in the wooden like shoes with
Clogs.
logs.
Clogs.
Clogs, yes, thank you. When we went out to work, marched out to work, we were also, we had assessment on each side of us, watching us, and we couldn't get out our clogs from the mud after the rain. Oh, in the winter time, I used to walk like on what? No, because the snow used to accumulate under the wooden clogs, so I walked like on stilts. We walked in different commanders. I carried stones and bags of sand on my shoulders and pushed trolleys, heavy trolleys. If I come to think of it now, I don't know where did I get the strength to do this heavy work. But I knew I wanted to survive. And the will of the survival was so strong in me that I knew I had to do it if I wanted to.
Yeah, I want to ask Ella. Ella, just a moment. I want to ask you a question, but I'm thinking maybe, Jordy, do you have a clip about the Shema Yisrael? Was that on the plan to maybe play it at some point during the evening? We want to show a clip because Ella told the story about Shema Yisrael in the gas chamber. So maybe you'll share that with us, Jordy.
If you think that good luck or good fortune has saved me, it's wrong. It's somebody up there. He's looking after me. He's giving me strength to fight, pushing me to survive, holding me up. So don't think it was just luck. El Melech Neman, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivot Malchuso Leolam Va'ed. We have to. I didn't carry on.
It's actually this week's parsha, Parshas Va'et Chanan, has the Shema Yisrael in the parsha this week. Ella, you mentioned your niece. Apparently there was an episode, I don't know if it was in Maidanek or in Auschwitz, where your niece was losing koyach, losing strength, and was looking to almost give up, and you held her. Can you share with us that story with your niece?
Yes. We were almost finished, and what gave us strength is just the thought that Reboine Shiller, that Hashem is not going to leave us. And my niece, unfortunately, was very weak and very thin, and she couldn't carry on. She felt that we should give up. So she begged me, come with me, because we were always together. Come with me, and let's go on the electrified wires on the fence, which is electrified. Let's finish. Let this struggle. I can't carry on anymore. The only way to get out of Auschwitz, she says, was through the chimneys. So I wait. Come, let's end the struggle. And I begged her and asked her to give me another day, and we will see. We will survive that day, and maybe there will be another day that we'll survive. Hashem won't leave us. And I managed to persuade her to carry on. And we both, Baruch Hashem, thank God, we survived.
When were you liberated?
I was liberated from Auschwitz. I was sent to Bergen-Belsen. And Rabbi, may I just tell you, when I arrived in Bergen-Belsen, what I saw was just corpses piling up outside each blockhouse and even inside. The sight of it shook me so terribly. I said, no, I must not land up now on top of these corpses. I survived the Warsaw Ghetto. I survived Maidanek. I got through this Auschwitz, and now I'm in Bergen-Belsen, and I see these piles of corpses. But I mustn't land up on top of them. I must carry on. And the will of survival in me has awakened with such strength in me that I made it. And I survived Bergen-Belsen. That's where I was liberated on the 15th of April, 1945 by the British Army.
I've spoken to many survivors over the years. I don't know how many went to 3 different concentration camps. You have some passport stamp, all these stamps. Maidanek, Auschwitz, Bergen-Belsen. Unbelievable.
Okay. What about the Warsaw Ghetto itself?
Yeah, you mentioned
and
that.
What about Maidanek?
And you said you were
missed Maidanek, Rabbi.
You said you were in Milan 19 in the Warsaw Ghetto, right? Milan 19.
Milan 19.
I can't.
You were in Milan 19.
I couldn't. Oh yes.
So one of the first books I read about the Holocaust was Leon Uris's Mila 18.
Mila 18, right? My last. When I was hit
Your last bunker.
The bunker. My last bunker. That was after I lost my parents No,
I'm not sure. Your mother.
my father was still with me, but my whole family was gone. I had my father and my niece. We were hiding in a bunker of Mila 19.
Yes, you
So
told us.
we found it was an abandoned, the building looked completely abandoned, but there were still people hiding there. And we got up on the second floor. We found an abandoned flat. People were sent away also. So what we did, we immediately bricked up the doorway leading to the last room, and we pushed over a wardrobe. So
Opposite Mila 19. Opposite Mila 18.
yes, and sorry, I didn't mention to you that Mila 19, the building that we were hiding in, was exactly across the road opposite Mila 18, which was the headquarters of our resistance people. So we were there. We could see the gate was always closed. It was a short gate. I look at it now as I'm talking to you. Anyway, in short, on Mila 19, when we were hiding, we bricked up the wall, and to get into our bricked up room, we had to go up one floor above us, and there we cut out the parquet floor, broke through the ceiling, and we got into our bricked up room. Did I say about the wardrobe? Did I say that we shifted the wardrobe?
Yeah.
So that one couldn't see that there was another room in it.
Okay.
Now,
Okay, we want to, so you told us about the Warsaw Ghetto, you told us about Maidanek and Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen, and now you're liberated, and where did you go after liberation?
sorry,
Where did you go after liberation?
after the liberation, so I've spoken enough for you. All right, Rebecca.
Oh, where did you go?
After the liberation.
We want to hear some good news.
Sorry?
Some good news. Where'd you go?
Good. First of all, Rabbi, I was one of very few that left Bergen-Belsen on the way to Warsaw. I wanted to see if maybe, perhaps, somebody survived of my family. So I got some papers, a Bescheinigung in English, half and this, that they should help me on the way, and I traveled to Poland. There was a woman with me. I couldn't travel alone. It was very dangerous because the road was full packed with Russian soldiers and German
prisoners.
Yeah, German
prisoners of war.
Prisoners,
Yeah.
German prisoners. I'm sorry, I can't think. So an elder woman was older than me and also survived the camps, and she traveled with me to Warsaw. And I walked in Warsaw, mamish on the Warsaw Ghetto ruins. I was there. But unfortunately, I didn't find anybody. I was trying to travel to Janów near Lublin because I thought that I will find my little niece who didn't look Jewish. And as I was in the train, and one of the stations, there were Jewish people standing and warned me, don't go any further, because we were the Poles were killing Jews. So don't go if you want to be alive. Don't go further. They were.
Yeah.
This is the Poles.
They called them Hitler's willing executioners.
I wanted to survive. I survived the Germans, so I wasn't going to be killed by the Poles. I went back.
So where did you
Warsaw.
go? Where did you go? You went to Palestine?
I went back to Bergen-Belsen.
Wow.
Where could I go? I was stateless. I wasn't Polish anymore.
How did you get out of Europe?
I've still got I've still got at Hayom. I've got the documents when I traveled to Poland.
How did you get out of Europe? Where did you go to?
I went back to Bergen-Belsen. From Bergen-Belsen, my niece and myself got permits through her father, my brother-in-law, Harav Shmuel Rothstein, who was in Palestine, in Tel Aviv. He got us through some people permission to travel to Paris. So there was a nephew of the Ghetto Rebbe and a few, there were about 6 of us that were traveling to Paris from Bergen-Belsen. So we went to Holland and Belgium and then Paris. And I lived in Paris for 2 years. After 2 years, I got papers from my brother-in-law in the name of his daughter who perished in Treblinka, in the name of Rivka Rothstein, and I traveled to Tel Aviv, to Haifa, then to Tel Aviv. And after living for 6 months in Israel, I met a South African. And after knowing him for 13 days, we got married on the Dag of Schonat Montefiore, of one of the buildings there. And I was married by Harav Frankel, the father-in-law of Rabbi Lau.
He was also a chief rabbi.
Of Yerushalayim?
Yes, yes. He knows me and I know him also.
Ella, there's a question that's come through. Tisha B'Av is a hard day for the Jewish people, and the Jewish people have struggled to find Hashem during the exile and destruction. What was your relationship like with Hashem during the war? And as you were traveling and trying to get out and to rescue yourself and your niece, what was your relationship with God, with Hashem during that time?
I have never, throughout my sufferings and fight for survival, I've never lost faith in Hashem. Say Hakol.
And that's even after losing your parents and your family, you still managed to remain strong with your faith.
I did, exactly.
Remarkable.
You know, I asked my father, Olav Shalom, the same question once. I said,
Yes.
you had so many struggles. How come you didn't lose your faith like so many other survivors did? We can't condemn them, obviously. Well, we weren't in their boots. And my father said, with every step of the way, from Poland to Lithuania to Moscow to Vladivostok to Japan to Shanghai to America, he felt that Hashem was plucking him out and rescuing him in each place. So even though he lost his whole family, but he felt that Hashem's hand was there saving him from danger, place after place. Similar experience to you.
Exactly. I felt exactly the same as your late father, Harafat.
I think there's a few questions. There's a few questions coming through which I wanted to share with you. But I must reflect, and I must say that we're going through challenging times right now with lockdown and COVID-19, and people are questioning, where is Hashem, where is God? And your story and your faith and your strength is such a reality check for all of us, is that after losing family to the hands of the Nazis in Machshamam, and you managed to remain strong in your faith and your connection to God, despite your losses and despite your difficulties, is really such a lesson for all of us to be able to see the hand of Hashem supporting us and helping us and assisting us during our challenges, which are incomparable to the challenges that you went through. So it's a very, very powerful lesson for all of us during this time. Questions come through. What did you do after you got married? You married the South African man in Israel. And then what was the next step of your journey of life?
I landed up in Johannesburg, where I had no family, no parents, no brothers, no sisters, no aunts. I was on my own. But I was a married woman, and I had a husband at least, and I had, Baruch Hashem, a family, children. So I had to carry on my life. I knew I've got to go on. I've got to go on. I've got to try and get through, try to forget. I couldn't actually, but I eventually was told by my husband's family that I should try to forget my past. And they recommended that I have my tattooed number removed from my arm. So I did it.
Well, you rebuilt your family, Ella. You're a heroine because you rebuilt your family, and Kenai had children and grandchildren. You have
Baruch Hashem.
And you have great-grandchildren. You just recently had a bris of a great-grandson. Mazel tov.
I want to start telling you about my great-grandchildren, Baruch Hashem. I can't believe it myself. I've got, bless them, 10. Keine Horror, sollen sie sein gesund. Let them be well. Sorry?
Your 90th birthday.
Oh, Rabbi, for many, many years, I used to ask myself, why was one the one to survive? Why was I chosen to remain alive? I could never find the answer to it. But when I was celebrating with my family my 90th birthday, which is 8 years ago, nearly 9 years. And we were sitting around the Shabbos table, and I looked around. What a celebration, how beautiful. I couldn't believe it, that this is my children, a survivor. And I looked around and I saw that there were how many? 19,
20.
23 of us sitting around the table. And this is exactly the month that I've lost my parents, my mother, my father, my brothers, my sisters, their spouses, and 7 nieces and nephews. And I realized, and it was 23 of us. And at the table, we were also 23. And I realized that Hashem has given me back some. Now, did you get it? Did you understand, Rabbi?
You got it. You rebuilt the family that you lost. Exactly the number of losses, you replaced them. God bless you.
Unbelievable.
Gave me back. So this was, most probably that's why I survived. I'm meant to survive, that I've got back what I've lost. It can never replace it, but it is wonderful, wonderful to have them around me.
I want to tell you something, Ella. You know, you remind me, it says in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, the Jewish people were slaves, like in the concentration camps. And yet the Jewish women decided to have children. And God was very happy that the Jewish women had children even in the slavery of Egypt. So you are a heroine like that because you too, even through all your troubles and slaveries and oppression, you rebuilt your family and you rebuilt the Jewish people. And the Jewish people are grateful to you. And we thank you so much.
Rabbi, sorry to interrupt you. It reminds me to say, Eshet Chayil v'im tzu.
We'll think about you when we sing it this Friday night. We'll think about Ella Blumenthal, a true Eshes Chayil.
It's unbelievable that Eshes Chayil has gone through so much and yet remains so strong. Eshes Chayil mi'imsa. There's a question that's come through. Do you find it difficult? Do you find it difficult remembering and talking about your experiences? Do you find it difficult? And did you share it with your children as they were growing up?
Actually, it took years until I started talking about it. Eventually, I opened up. But for years and years, I didn't talk about it. It was very difficult to open up the wounds. But then I decided I've got to come out with it. When they used to ask me, what is that scar on your left arm? I said, it was an accident because I didn't want to tell them about my past. But eventually I had to tell them the truth.
We're very happy that you started telling the story, and we're very happy that Jordy is putting the story into film for posterity, that it should never be lost to generations.
The questions come through. Where is your niece today? What happened to your niece who came out?
She lives in Manhattan.
Right, beautiful.
In the States, in New York. But unfortunately, her mind is not so good. So it's very difficult. I have to talk to her through her son. That's the usual thing. And that's why I am so grateful to Hashem that gave me still time to keep my mind clear.
Well, Ella, you're about to celebrate your 99th birthday very soon. And please God, your 100th, Emir Hashem, you should make a century and more, bis 120 zu Lange gesunde Juren.
I can't hear.
Lange gesunde Jahre.
I
Ella,
can't hear. What? Yes.
I know that Rabbi Goldman's going to introduce another film. We just got an email. We just got a very interesting email. Do you know a name, Gerald Blumenthal?
Of course, he lives in the States.
So,
It's my husband's first cousin. Yes.
so Gerald,
Where do you come?
so Gerald Blumenthal just emailed us now during the program,
Yes.
and Gerald says, I hope you can help me. I've been trying to contact my aunt. The last time I saw my aunt was 42 years ago, just before I immigrated.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you. So now he knows where to get hold of me.
And now he lives in Houston, Texas, and he's asking for your contact number because he would like to make contact.
So will you please give it to him?
We'll do that. We'll do that.
Absolutely.
I'm so
Thank
happy.
you.
that-
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy that Ashur was able to make a family reunion for you.
The mishpocha of my late husband, but it's mishpocha for me also.
Well,
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. That's beautiful news. Wonderful news.
okay. I think that's a great way to try and wrap up the program. We are very, very deeply grateful to Ella for giving us your time and your heart and your soul and sharing with us your life story, your story of strength, of hope, of courage, and of faith in Hashem. And you are a role model for all of us. We with our terrible problems of Corona, and we can't go here, and we can't buy whiskey, and it's terrible, you know. And,
We will see.
and you are inspiring all of us, Ella. So God bless you. You should be gesund and stark.
Oh, my sailor. Oh, my sailor. Oh, my.
Amen. Amen.
Rabbi
Jordy.
Goldman, another film, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
Jordy's going to give us a finale. And once again, to thank our sponsors. And we got lots more stuff. Sydenham Shul is very, very busy with all kinds of Zoom events to which you're all invited, including tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and then Friday afternoon, and then the following Monday. And every Friday and Monday, we have lots of things going on, plus all the regular davening and shiurim. So you're invited to keep connected. Once again, to thank Jordy, and to thank not only Ella, but to thank Peter and Evelyn, our children, for helping facilitate this. And God bless you, Ella. We are honored to have spent time with you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Oh, my sailor. The Salzana, so kommen, your brochas brachot should come true. Thank you. I thank Rabbi.
God bless you. And we should merit the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash, and we'll all be reunited once again.
We shall überleben the pandemic in Yetz Hashem.
Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Okay, here's Jordy's film.
The hatred is not only for Jews. There's wars, different tribes, different beliefs. The hatred, that's what's causing all the problems in the world. So we must love people around us, not find faults with the color or skin or different beliefs. Love everybody. Be kind to everybody. We should not forget what has happened to us, and we must be aware that things, God forbid, could happen again.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
Rabbi
you.
Stern, we're going to
Thank
close
you.
these.
Thank you very, very much, Ella. It's been a privilege. The messages are coming through on the chat. People are thanking you for the privilege of having the experience to listen to you and to share your story. A remarkable woman. May Hashem bless you. It's been inspiring, and there's so many positive messages coming through. So we're very, very grateful for you for sharing your personal story, and thank the Eibishter that you decided to open up and share your story with all of us, because it's such vital life lessons for all of us to listen to. So we thank you very, very much. And Jordy, Yashikar to you. Before we conclude, I just want to touch upon tomorrow's program. Tomorrow morning, we have a program at 10 o'clock. We're going to start with part of Kinnis. Part of Kinnis tomorrow at 10 o'clock. For 10 minutes, the finale of Kinnis is going to be tomorrow. A reminder, there's no Talis and Tefillin tomorrow in Shachris as we daven. And at 10:10, we have the privilege of hosting Dalia Oster as our presenter, who's going to present on crisis and comfort from the book of Eicha, followed by a lecture of Rabbi Goldman's father's story at 11 o'clock, Journey of Survival, My Father's Story. And then I'll be concluding the program with a lecture at 11:30. You're all welcome to join us there. Tomorrow midday is at 12:14. So a person should try and refrain from work if possible until midday tomorrow. And that's when we're able to get up from our low chairs as well at 12:14 in the afternoon. At 4:30 p.m., there's going to be a mass gathering, a big gathering of men to put on tefillin together across the country. In fact, at 4:30, we'll send out notices of that. Mincha with Sidlam Shul will be at 5 o'clock on our Zoom link, and the fast ends at 6:05 tomorrow evening. So keep that in mind. We'll send out the notices in WhatsApps and emails tomorrow. We thank you all for joining us. A leicht and tonis. It should be an easy but meaningful fast, an easy but meaningful fast for all of us. And thank you all for joining. I'm going to, you can unmute yourselves on the way out if you wish. I don't know, Ella has a hard time hearing, but if you'd like to share your thoughts on your way out, you're more than welcome to do.
Yeah, Ella, absolutely fantastic and inspiring. Thank you, Rabbis. Yeah.
Thank you, Ella.
Thank you, Ella.
Thank you for
Everyone will talk at the same time.
Kondo talk.
Ella, you're an absolute inspiration. Thank you.
Good to start.
Thank you, Ella. Thank you, rabbis.
Thank you for joining.
Did anyone see?